This is Neil Affleck of My Bloody Valentine, and you all are listening to Without Your Head.
Welcome to the station of decapitation without your head. I am Nasty Neil.
This is Annabelle Lecter.
Yes. And this is our special Valentine's Day show. And we've got the cast, well, several cast members of My Bloody Valentine. And with us right now is Paul Kelman. How are you doing?
That's me.
Yes. So My Bloody Valentine, 1981. How did the movie come about for you? How did you get involved in it?
Well, we were shooting in Montreal another movie at the time, and this audition came up, and Keith Knight, who you know played Hollis in the movie, had this audition for this movie called My Bloody Valentine. And he asked me if I wanted to come along, and I said, "Can I crash the audition?" And he said, "Yeah." So I did, and I got the part of the lead.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, it was weird.
Was there any was he happy for you? Because he was going in for the was he going for the same role, or was he trying?
Oh, no.
Okay.
No, he's more a character actor.
Mm-hmm.
He was more of a character actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you surprised by that you went in there and without much preparation and got the lead role?
I don't know. I'm pretty good on my feet.
Yeah.
And
How long had you been into acting beforehand?
since about 1970, so 11 years prior.
Mm-hmm.
And I started in the theater, and I went to a theater school in Edmonton, Alberta. I got my BFA in acting, which was really unnecessary, but I met a lot of cool people.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did a film. I did a film when I was there, a horrible film that I don't even want to mention. Really an embarrassing thing. But that was my first film. I guess I only did about 3 or 4 films prior to Valentine. We were there in Montreal anyway. We were filming a movie called Gas with Donald Sutherland and, who else was in that? Howie Mandel, myself, Keith, Alf Humphreys, who played, what was his name? You know, he was the comic character in My Bloody Valentine.
Mm-hmm.
The one who blew
Oh, yeah, we were just talking about him. Oh, man, that's terrible.
I just can't remember the name of the character right now. Anyway, he was also in Gas, and so was Carl Marat, who played, I don't know what his character name was, but he played the guy who got his face immersed in the boiling hot dog water.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Hollis?
Pardon?
It wasn't Hollis, was it?
Hollis was what Keith played.
Yeah.
He was the big strong man there with the soft voice. Yeah. And he and I were very close friends. And then he suddenly died at a very young age. And it was a complete shock to me, and I'm sure everybody else as well in the cast. He was quite well known here in Toronto. Mm-hmm. And it was a big loss. I mean, he and I were very close. We spent many years together as friends and did a lot of things. And we acted together, and we loved that. We were really good together. We had really a good time all the time.
Was that personality kind of similar for him between the role and who he was in reality?
Well, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I mean, he was he was an enormous man. Like, he was really big, about 6'4", 6'5", weighed a ton, very, very strong. And, but he was a very mild-mannered guy, you know, and very generous, extremely generous, very kind, and a good drinker, buddy. we liked our Irish whiskey together, and we did a lot of that. So we had a lot of things in common.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that helped? Do you think that helped the movie? Because it does seem like all the miners are friends in the movie. Like there's a good chemistry between everybody.
Well, most of the actors in the film, that was their first or their second film. None of them, they were amateur in the true sense, in that they were doing it. It was new to them. They really put their heart and soul into it. There were a few. It was interesting, the casting, because what they did was they cast a lot of the support roles with main actors. And older actors who had a lot of experience, like the guy who played the bartender.
Yeah.
I'm getting bad on names here.
Mm-hmm.
He passed away as well, by the way, unfortunately. He
Jack.
was a great guy. I'm just trying to think of his name, because his brother was quite famous as well.
Jack.
Yeah, Jack what?
Van Evera.
Oh, right. But that wasn't, I can't remember. His family name was different. His brother was a famous actor on television, at least in Canada anyway. And, but I can't remember the name right now. Anyway, these were...
Jack Van Evera?
Yeah, Jack Van Evera, yeah. And then the woman who played the laundry lady, was Mabel. There was a character name. She was a very experienced actor. She'd been around for about 30 years. And same with the other ones, like the guy who played Chief Newby. Mm-hmm. I mean, he came. Mm-hmm. He was, my memory is really bad right now. I'm always bad on names, but anyway, he was.
I can list him off. I've got IMDb. He's Don Frank.
Don Frank.
And Mabel was Patricia Hamilton.
That's right, Pat Hamilton. Yeah, she'd been around. She was a trooper. She'd been around a long time, done a million roles, but probably the most experienced was Chief Newby. He'd been on Broadway many, many years back. And done at just about every television show in existence. And he was a really... Don Franks he's not only a jazz musician, an actor, he's also a kind of an honorary Native. He married into the Native community, and it was really amazing, because the first time I met him, was in the changing room before a scene. And he took off his shirt, because he had long hair down the middle of his back. You didn't see that in the movie, of course, because he wore a wig. But his entire back was this enormous tattoo in full color of a buffalo. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And I mean his entire back. It spread right across the whole back down to his waist. He was really a genuine character, I'll tell you. Amazing man. Very, very, very talented. And he drives, I think he's like, I don't know how old he is now, but he must be in his 80s. And he still drives a Harley Davidson down the street. I see him every once in a while.
He sounds like a hell of an interesting guy.
Oh, yeah. He's famous in the jazz circles, too. I mean, extremely talented man. Anyways, those are the kind of people that supported the movie. And everybody else kind of just fit in and took the vibe and went with it, So
it sounds like a lot of fun.
Well, yeah, we had fun with each other.
It's work. You guys are doing your job, but it must have been interesting to have all those people around you. Were they did they help you guys with any of
Oh yeah, everybody was very supportive. All the actors were. There was a good chemistry. There's no doubt about that, and it shows in the film, I think. But it was a very, very difficult movie to do, and quite dangerous too.
Why is that?
Yeah, there's something about the even the lighting. You had to be very careful because of all the fumes from the mines that could just explode.
Yeah, the thing was partly shot in a non-active mine, which was one of the few coastal mines in North America. So it was also beneath the ocean floor. That's where we were.
Wow.
So several hundred feet. it took about 11 minutes to come up or down on the elevator shaft. So, like, you couldn't make a quick exit if something went wrong. You know, it was really, we only had one major gas alert where we had to abandon the mine, and it took us like 35 minutes to get everybody out. You know, so, you know, I mean, once you were down there, you were down there.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, and you know, I was a smoker at the time. I'm not anymore, but you know, you can't smoke down there, of course. And the arc lights were very hot. So they had to be shut down every time they weren't being used. They couldn't be like left on constantly because of the heat would raise the gas level. Or a spark could do it right there, do everybody in, you know.
Yeah.
So it was, you know, you were very aware of that. Plus, I had to chew tobacco, which was really a drag. I mean, nobody could smoke down there, so I learned how to chaw tobacco. And something called Red Indian, I think it was called. And that was dangerous in itself because if you really had to learn how to do it, because if you swallowed even a slightest drop, you'd hurl. Big time.
That sounds terrible.
I know, you know. I don't know how those
That
miners
didn't
do
catch
it.
on in your life? You didn't move on and stop with cigarettes and just keep chewing?
Oh no, it's a filthy habit. I mean, you got, you know, your mouth is black and ugh, it's really awful. It tastes good though after a while. But miners do that, like that. The ones who smoke chew tobacco down there. And we actually went down into a real mine, and we had the experience with the miners. They took us down to what's called the face, which is basically the rock face where they're drilling. And the drill is about 2.5 feet to 3 feet wide, and about 8 or 9 feet long. It's this enormous drill that looks like a turbine, and there they are. We're in a tiny, not. There's no big tunnels like in the movie. There were big tunnels in the movie, but in the real mine, tunnels are really quite small. And where the face is where the smallest tunnel is because they're drilling in, and they're drilling into solid stone and hitting coal dust flying everywhere. So this thing is whirling around, and then you've got maybe 18 inches on either side of the drill between you and the drill and the wall. And what they do is you've got 2 rows of miners on each side of the drill. This is where we were. They did a special deal for us to let us actually experience the horror of being a miner. And you're standing there with this drill. Literally, if you make a mistake, this thing is whirling so fast that blades are just going, you know, and there are miners there with a hose, hosing it down because the heat is so major.
Wow.
And if you even moved an inch in the wrong direction, you'd lose an elbow, an arm, fingers.
I can't even imagine. That thing is cutting rock. And what it would do to a human.
Well, and then not only that, but then you end up covered. Like every part of you that has skin exposed is covered in black dust, including your lungs, of course, if you're a miner for 40 years, like a lot of them are. But they all die of emphysema eventually. Yeah, I don't understand why these people do that, but it's like a tradition. No, really. I mean, it's you know, the father does it, then the son does it. Probably the granddad did it, and you know, it's a tradition in the family, and this is the way they make their living. But it's really not not anything I would even consider doing for. I mean, it's just crazy. Besides, coal, you know, we don't need it right now. It's the worst thing there is. But you know, back then, that's the way it was. And there's generations of coal miners for the last 100 years or so. They're, you know, and they've all died a horrible death. I mean, it's just a terrible, terrible, terrible thing. Anyway, we learned a lot as a result. So you got the idea that what it was like to be a miner for real, the dangers that were involved, both physically and also the toll it took on you being underground all the time. I mean, your mental state is very strange as a result, because you're not living above land. There's no sun, there's barely any light down there. They have lights on their helmets and stuff, and there's a few lights that are along the walls, but that's about it. So it's a real kind of subterranean cult or culture down there that is completely unique to anything I've ever experienced before. Mm-hmm. I mean, my heart went out to these guys.
Oh, good. I was just going to say, I think that whole underground experience really adds a lot. And I'm sure everybody knows this, but it adds so much to the atmosphere because it is one of those things that people are just naturally afraid of. How did that claustrophobic feeling affect you in what you did? And then to hear about probably the respect, I would assume all of you got from that experience.
Yeah.
How did that impact your acting?
I think the main thing that, really, I think it was only the director's second film. I'm not sure. But, so he was a newbie as well. Everybody was kind of we all were on a kind of a semi-professional status, but none of us really had that much experience except for the major support actors who were much older. So the thing I think that Mihalka, the director, managed to do was give us environments that we could really do our thing in, So he provided the mine, and there was also a set of the mine that we used, which was very detailed. So we always had the right atmosphere, and that made it a lot easier to do the acting because there was no CGI or anything, right? Mm-hmm. So we actually were experiencing the mine as we were doing the acting out that we're in a mine. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it was real. Yeah. So really all you had to play was the environment and the circumstance. There wasn't you didn't have to work too hard to create a character. Mm-hmm. And the scripts were, they were, basic, really kind of basic dialogue and emotion, mostly for the age group of in the 20s, right? Everybody is like 20 years old in the thing, except for me, of course. I was 10 years older, but pretending to be 20. They cut my hair. They made it black. They gave me bangs. They rosed my cheeks, all to make me look a lot younger. I turned 31 on set.
Oh, okay.
And most of the other actors that I worked with were in their late teens, early 20s. Mm-hmm. So it was, at that age especially, people have a real kind of an energy that's different from, say, a jaded actor who'd been around for 25 years. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so they really put their heart into it. And with the environment, it was actually, that part was pretty easy. Except, like I said, it was actually a dangerous shoot. There were a lot of things. Working in the mine was one. The mine cars, if you remember, there was that scene where I do a fight on the train with Neil. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, that was for real. That was very scary. Those mine cars are going 20 or 30, 40 miles an hour. And we did it a little slower than really dangerous, and then the stuntmen stepped in and did it, in real time fast. But it was dangerous. I mean, you're lying on a car that's, going downhill into a mine, and this guy's swinging a pickaxe at you. I mean, it's really wild. I'd never done anything like that before. Mm-hmm.
How long were the shoots in the mines themselves? Like, how long would you guys be down there?
6-8 hours.
Yeah.
Like maybe longer. I can't remember exactly. Mm-hmm. But we'd come up for lunch, and then we go back down again. And a lot of shoots were late at night. I don't really remember. They were long days, 12, 14 hours a day. And then halfway through the film, we got the news that Paramount had bought the film before it was even half finished. They liked the rushes so much. So now we were under the gun. It had to be completed in a certain time, and we were a few days behind. So, the pressure was on, you know, and it was, and a lot of the pressure was on me because I'm the lead. And it's funny. I never realized it, but when you play the lead in a film, everybody's looking to you to create the, I don't know, the thrust, the energy, the thrust of the thing. It's kind of like on your shoulders. That's not easy. I hadn't thought of that actually when I got the role. That part had not dawned on me. And afterwards, I realized, those guys who play James Bond and do all those things and carry the whole movie, those you have to be a really amazing actor to be able to pull that off. I just realized all those stunts that they do, and what we were doing was minor compared to a major motion picture like a James Bond movie or something. But I really gained a whole new respect for film actors who played those kind of adventure roles and played the lead and had to carry the whole film and the whole time look really competent. That's not easy.
Were there any injuries? You said he was dangerous and whatnot.
Well, I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about that, but yeah, we had a few accidents. We one guy was badly injured. We had a car accident. We had an accident. We had a rail car accident, kind of major actually. Scared the hell out of me. Scared the hell out of everybody in the cars. Let's see. We had a gas scare when we had to leave, and what else? There were a lot of little things that took place because we were in a rush. It wasn't like a 10-week or 12-week or 16-week shoot or anything. It was only like really 4 or 5 weeks, I think. I think altogether we took 6 weeks to shoot the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was scheduled for 5. But that's a quick shoot for a full feature. Mm-hmm. Usually you have 4 months minimum, So, yeah, things can go wrong easily, especially when you're in a dangerous environment like that. And also, people don't really know exactly what they're doing. We had car chases, that were rather dangerous, I thought. We had fight scenes and then the scenes down in the mine. The whole thing was, you had to really be on your toes. It was, you had to really keep an eye out on what was going on in case something went wrong, Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I mean, we survived. Mm-hmm. And I thought the movie was over. I mean, it aired. I mean, it showed up in the theaters. It did its thing. I got a little notoriety for it, and then I just figured it would just, disappear like so many other films. And then suddenly, I think it was just a few years ago, all of a sudden, I start hearing and seeing all about it. It's on TV all the time, every Valentine's Day, blah, 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 blah. And I thought, what's going on here? I mean, the thing is 33, 34 years old, Mm-hmm. So then I hear it's a cult classic. I don't know if I totally understand that, to be honest with you. But I have a Facebook page and I got hundreds and hundreds of fans.
Yeah. Well, what is that like for you though? When you did discover, so many years after you make the movie, that it does have this following.
Well, at first I had like a Shatner moment, like get a life. Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, come on, It's only a movie, and it's. But I have to admit the fans, because the fans really humbled me. I mean, people were really enthusiastic. People were enthusiastic even about my work. Mm-hmm. I was very surprised. It took me a while to adjust, and then I started to enjoy it. Yeah. It's fun, and almost every single fan on my site on Facebook is they're all really nice people. There's no
the horror community is a lot of sweethearts there. You wouldn't think so to look at them necessarily, but they're really decent people, They're wearing a lot of black and crazy tattoos and things like that, but they're good people.
Yeah, a lot of beards. Like I don't know. I think I started I think it started without me in the first place in England. Everybody started wearing beards all of a sudden, but I have a very long white beard and very long white hair too. Um, but I all of a sudden I got a whole bunch of people who friended me. They had beards, and they wanted to have beards like mine. Go figure. It draws all kinds of people. I've got beard people. I'm an animal rights person, big time. So I have a lot of animal rights people who follow me, and I follow them back, of course. I pretty well take on anybody. I always check out their page first, but I haven't had one.
I don't know why you're my friend. How did you end up being my friend if you look at my page? I always hope people just accept me and not look.
No, I always look. I have to know. I've only had 3 or 4 people who were, there was some woman, some chick from who knows where, Africa, somewhere. I can't remember what country exactly. Anyway, she wanted money, as if I had any.
Yeah.
And then there was another couple of some, sex trade women. But really, out of 7 or 8, or I don't know how many hundreds of people I have on the site, but I'd say I've had maybe 4 people who I had to block. It's all. So it's really no big deal. Everybody that I friended back has been really, really nice, and they're all very generous people. They love horror. Obviously, I mean, I like horror too. It's not, I'm not, I'm just not. It's just not a big priority for me. I guess because I'm older now, and I'm 60. I just turned 65 a few months ago, so my priorities are different than they used to be. I watch a lot of horror movies. I'm really a big science fiction fan, and I watch a lot of the Nature Channel and stuff like that because I'm really into animal rights and just the environment. It's a big concern to me. I feel very strongly about it. I think we're making such a huge mistake by not acting quickly enough. It used to be like I live in Canada, I live in Toronto, and it used to be that Canada was a really nice place to live. And Toronto, especially, up until we had Mayor Ford, of course. And, the crack Ford, the big joke in the entire international community was our mayor for several years because he was discovered to be a crack addict and possibly somebody who was a murderer even. I mean, I'm telling you, it's just so bad. I mean, when when they're talking to him about him on the Tonight Show and making jokes about him, that Toronto is internationally been embarrassed, and it's awful because Toronto's not like this, So anyway, then we also have this guy who's our prime minister. His name is Harper, and this guy had just totally destroyed the country. It's mind-boggling. You know about the XL pipeline?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's coming from Alberta, and he comes from Alberta, and it's his doing that he's pushing all this. He's in the pocket of the oil companies, the big oil companies in Canada, and he's just destroying the environment here. Plus, they're culling wolves and doing all kinds of stupid things that have never been done before here in this country.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, in this country, they did all this stuff with the wolves, and then they started to reintroduce them. What do you think about that? Because a lot of that has been developed, and it seems, I don't know if it's a good idea. As much I really like wolves, and as much as I would like them to be here, it feels almost wrong because now they're in farmlands where now there are predators of cattle or sheep and getting shot because they're going after prey that makes sense for them to get. What do you think?
The science, like the most current science, is to reintroduce the wolf. The wolf is absolutely necessary to the ecological balance of any environment that it's in. Without it, all kinds of bad things start to happen. And I know that the common wisdom was to get rid of the wolves, but that's not the way it works. Where they have done this, reintroduced the wolf, like in Germany and other European countries, it's been extremely successful. The reason that there's a problem is because we've encroached on their environment, and as a result, they've become more visible. But you know what? This is propaganda that you've been either reading or hearing about in terms of wolves attacking sheep and cattle and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's more of a rarity than it is a certainty. And I mean, they have to eat, and yeah, they might pick off one or two, here and there, but that's not the way it really works. These wolves pretty well stick to themselves. They'll eat almost anything. They'll eat everything from rodents to, whatever is kind of available. But they have to roam. That's the thing. And if they can't roam, they end up in your backyard. Not that they're going to attack you. I mean, they're not. Unless you frighten them somehow. But
that can be said for any wild animal.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I've had interaction with wild. I never could tell exactly what they were, but they were in the forest. They came out. They could have been like part dog and part wolf. I'm not really sure, but they came out. They were hungry. We fed them, and then I played with them. It was very wild. But you really learn when you interact with a wild animal like that. How real they really are, how kind of what's the word? Like they have a reality that's not all that different from yours, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. It's just that their reality is, they can't speak, not at least not a language that I understand. So not that they don't communicate, because they do. So it's we're just different. That's it. And so we shouldn't be scared of them because they're a predator. I mean, who's the biggest predator on this earth? Us. Are we scared of each other? Yes. Do we try to eradicate each other? Yes. And is there a problem in terms of, whose land is whose? Yes. So I don't see, we don't go around killing a whole bunch of people because there's too many people on this part of the land, unless we want that land.
Well, some people do. In different parts of the world, they do.
I mean, it's the same thing. What are you going to do? Cull people? Yeah. I guess that's what we do. So we also cull wolves, or other animals. Actually, in BC right now, British Columbia, they're about to do exactly that. They have a 5-year program where they're going to kill I can't remember, 5,000 wolves or something like that.
Really? Because I was just going to mention that. I thought British Columbia and is Vancouver a good area for wolves as well? Because that's what I thought.
Well, I know it's BC. I don't know exactly where, but it's bad. And and they're using helicopters to just shoot them on site. Yeah. They just I can't even talk
about that's sad. I've seen that on video. Anybody out there who likes animals probably shouldn't watch it, because it's really terrible. They just chase them until they're so tired that they pretty much just collapse, and then they shoot it. It's pretty gross.
Yeah, it is. But there's so many other things, like Heather, my life companion. She's a photographer, and she's been to Africa on 2 occasions on what they call a photo safari. And she's brought back all kinds of pictures of the animals there that are on so-called protected sanctuary land. But there's poachers, so there's a horrible thing happening. And of course, the Chinese are probably the worst. The government of China and the Chinese people there are probably the worst culprits, including Japan and the dolphins. Actually, there's a protest, everybody, in Toronto, or in cities all over the world, actually, tomorrow, protesting the Taiji dolphin hunt. They're killing like 50 dolphins a day or more. like every day.
Wow.
And there's absolutely no reason to be doing this except for profit.
Yeah.
It's a really it's just horrible. I don't know if you saw the movie Blackfish.
No.
No, well,
Mm.
you should check that out sometime. It's a documentary and it exposes all of that. It went around the world, and for the first time, people really got an understanding of what's going on with the whaling industry and how whales are being killed unnecessarily, as well as, well, there's no reason to kill a whale, actually. And there's no reason to kill a dolphin either, especially when they're super intelligent animals. You know,
Yeah.
it's they suffer badly. I'm just so against all that stuff. But this is something new for me. I've only become really aware of all of this, I guess, over the last few years. Like, you talk about horror movies, and then there's real horror,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and
Yeah, and that's
it's
the funny thing, because I was thinking about how people can, in their lives, there's so many terrible things that go on, and they'll watch shows that are about really horrific things and kind of just accept it, like real crime drama shows and things like that. And to me, horror movies are, in a way, more lighthearted than that, because they're so out there. You know, My Bloody Valentine is probably never going to happen in reality. So I can watch that and enjoy it. You know, that to me that's fine. That's cool, because that's fiction, complete fiction. And then there's other things like this, and that's the stuff that I have a hard time watching, is the real stuff.
yeah, yeah, I know. It's funny. I noticed that with a lot of people, like in the horror community, how they react to the animal posts that I put out. I mean, everybody likes cute cats, and
Yeah.
everybody's got a cat or a dog, and we all love our pets. But there's really not much difference between your dog or your cat and a cow or a pig
Yeah.
or an elephant. You know, too big to be in your home, I understand, but you know, I mean, they're still the same animal. They're they're non-human, and
Yeah.
if you can love a cat, why can't you love a cow? You know, if you actually knew the cow that you slaughtered in order to eat it and put your steak on your table, I think you'd have a whole different, you know, vantage point on the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Farmers seem to have oh, there's so few of those around anymore. I'm big against factory farming. That's a real horror to me, and that has to be stopped. And there's really no point in continuing it either, except for, again, it's all money. And but you know, so is the movie industry. You know, it's all about money,
Yeah.
big time. Movies have changed so much now. In fact, you know, I didn't even know that My Bloody Valentine came out on Blu-ray.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just a few years ago. It's the collector's edition with the. It was actually, it's funny you mentioned that, because a few years ago we had George Mahalka on the show,
Yeah,
and it was probably longer than I think. It was probably like 7 years ago, and we had mentioned to him about the remake, and because it hadn't come out yet, but we just read that they were remaking it, and we actually like broke the news to him because he had not heard about it, and here he's the director of the original film. And you know, some people are telling him that they're remaking it. It was on the internet, and he was like kind of shocked about it.
I was too.
That they wouldn't have asked him, and he had hoped about that about the Blu-ray. At the time, he was hoping that it would get released and they would finally put out the unedited version.
Yeah. Oh, the unedited version. Yeah, the director's cut.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's actually quite different. Have you seen both?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You did mention about it showing a lot now. When I grew up, they showed it every year here on like Channel 38 when I was a kid.
Oh, is that right?
Every Valentine's Day, because I'd watch it so many times. And but then when I did see the director's cut, sometimes the director's cut, like it'll be like brief scenes that really don't make any difference. But there is a big difference between the edited one and the unedited.
There's a lot more gore.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like you see a lot more of the actual murder and stuff happening, a lot more blood.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I can't remember. You know, I actually I have fans who have seen the movie like 30 times. You know, I've maybe seen it 5 at the most. You know, it's not exactly. I don't really like looking at myself on film or TV.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Yeah.
it doesn't really it doesn't register. I can't quite relate.
Hmm.
Um, I think the so-called average viewer, I mean, I don't think they understand that. Um,
Well, no one likes to hear themselves on the phone, so it's the same. I would think it'd be about the same thing.
What is?
Well, people, it's a very small version of what you're saying, but I would think it'd be kind of like when no one likes to hear their own voice.
That's right. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I know that's true. Although, the selfie generation is here and everybody's
Yeah.
got pictures of themselves
And
over
now,
and over and over
yeah.
again.
Yeah. We're
I
guilty of
post,
that ourselves. So.
yeah, well, I post quite a few myself, but that seems to be what they want to see.
Hmm.
They want to see
Hmm.
pictures of me. So,
Excuse me.
okay. So every time I get a new cowboy hat or, or my beard gets coiffed or something, there's a new pic of me. I'm,
Uh-huh.
I'm really big on the Western culture without all the negative aspects of it.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And because I lived out West for many, many years. And I got into the cowboy culture. I hung out with the rodeo circuit for about 3 months.
Hmm.
And oh yeah, I hung out with the cowboys, the rodeo cowboys, the country western singers. It was I loved it. I lived in a small town called High River, Alberta, which is probably not so much a small town anymore. It also got flooded last year, so the whole town got wrecked. But at the time that I lived there, they still had boarded sidewalks, no streets, dirt streets, hitching posts everywhere with people riding in, either coming in with their truck or riding on their horse. I mean, it was a real cowboy town, and
Hmm.
ranchers everywhere. I got to know all the ranchers, all the rodeo cowboys, the five-time bronc riding champs, and all those guys. Actually, I got a good story about that. When I was there, do you remember the movie by Robert Altman, Buffalo Bill and the Indians?
Hmm.
What was it? No, no. Yeah. Was it Buffalo Bill? Yeah. Buffalo Bill and the Indians, I think. Something like that. And there was a long line about Sitting Bull. And it starred Paul Newman as Buffalo Bill.
Hmm.
You remember that flick?
Yeah,
No?
sure. I don't know.
It rings a bell?
I saw a
Yeah.
lot of westerns when I was younger. I used to watch when my grandfather was really big on westerns. So I'm not.
This would have been like 1975, maybe
Mhm.
76. Anyways, that's when I was there doing the whole cowboy thing. And at the same time, Altman was there with
Hmm.
Paul Newman and the cast. Will Sampson was in that too. Oh, and what's his name from what's the most famous horror movie? The first zombie movie, Night of the
Night of the
Living
Living
Dead.
Dead?
Dead?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's his name? Kevin McCarthy. He was also in this movie.
He's in Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Oh, Invasion of Body Snatchers.
Yeah,
Oh,
we just talked about him recently. I
is
don't
that
know, I
right?
can't remember why, but yeah.
Oh, he was there. He was in the film too. This Buffalo Bill and the Indians. So this whole cast was there, and I was also there doing a play that I was directing, that I wrote and directed about the cowboy culture, which is why I was getting into it so much. And so what happened is we had common friends because the same ranchers and cowboy, the rodeo cowboys that I knew were also working on the movie. So one day, one of the main cowboy who was basically the stunt guy for Newman, his name is Tommy Buse. He had on his ranch, he threw what they call a jackpot rodeo, which is a private rodeo, with
Hmm.
a big what do you call it, like a big barbecue of hamburgers and whatnot. So he invited us, and he invited the cast from Buffalo Bill and the Indians. So we spent the entire day with Paul Newman and Will Sampson and all those guys, and we had absolute blast. I drank whiskey with Paul Newman, ate hamburgers with him.
Nice.
I got really drunk. But I mean, it was fabulous, just fabulous. I mean, so we had like three realities there. We had the real cowboy culture,
Hmm.
we had the theater version, which was us, and we had the film version. and it was all kind of came together. It was really an amazing experience. And Paul Newman, I'll tell you, has fluorescent eyes. They glow in the dark. That's how blue they are.
Yeah.
They're insured for over. They were at the time insured by Lloyd's of London for over $1 million. It was amazing, you know.
Yeah.
But you know what? He was okay. They were all kind of. I was really, really struck with Kevin McCarthy, and he had no idea why. He was such a big deal. He was just an actor. And I understand how that feels. Yeah. All of them were like that. Newman was a little on the rough side. His son had committed suicide or something only about 6 months prior. So he wasn't exactly in the best headspace in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the other guys are very cool. Will Sampson, who was like, a 6'8" native, was just, you remember him in Cuckoo's Nest?
Yeah, okay, I know exactly what you mean now.
Yeah.
The big Indian with the long black hair,
Right,
you know.
Yeah.
He was really incredible. All these guys were incredible. That was a really amazing time for me. And I got totally westernized at that point. And I've worn cowboy hats and cowboy gear. I got my own spurs. Used to have my own saddle. And we learned how to ride proper. They taught us. It was really one of the best times I've ever had in my life, I have to admit.
I see Harvey Keitel was also in that movie.
He was?
Yeah, he's listed here.
He's the relative Ed Goodman.
Exactly.
Son of a gun, eh? So there was Harvey Keitel. I didn't know who he was. Because the whole cast was there. It was it was a really cool event. It was just them, the Cowboys, and us. And Harvey Keitel, eh?
Yeah.
Well, what do you know?
It was one of my favorites.
I met Jeff Bridges once, and I was really taken by him because he hadn't, in the movie industry, especially back then when I was like, hot stuff, it was, you kind of get, your ego gets a little bloated, and you think you're more than what you really are. And you kind of get arrogant, and the business itself kind of turns you that way if your mind isn't straight, and mine wasn't. That's the thing about the film My Bloody Valentine, by the way. A lot of people ask me, how I kind of got the character. Well, I didn't. It was just me. I mean, that's the way I was.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily written that way. It was, you put that into it.
I was just, I was an arrogant, angry young man. And so it suited the part perfectly. I really didn't have to do much except for play the lines, Yeah. And the emotions were part of what the lines were about. So, like with Neil and I, for example, the rivalry over the girl. I mean, that was natural. That was easy to do. By the way, I don't know if did Neil mention that moment where he slams me in the stomach with the log?
He did not.
No.
You remember that in the movie? I'm coming around the corner, and he's hiding behind.
Yeah, I remember. He doesn't realize you are who you are, but in reality, of course, he knows who you are. But I remember that.
He did it for real.
It looks very convincing.
He was very
he supposed to do it for real, or was there supposed to be a guide saying "Do not cross this line"?
No, it's just that he was really enthusiastic. So when I say, I think I swore at that moment. I can't remember if it was in the script or not, but I remember when I swore. I mean, he really hit me hard, and he knocked the wind out of me. So whatever reaction I had was like the real thing. And I remember the first time I saw it in a theater, everybody laughed at that moment. The whole audience broke up. I thought, well, that was successful. But I mean, nobody realized that it was for real, Yeah, Neil and I had all these fights together and stuff, and that was not easy, I'll tell you. I was neither of us really had that much experience in I'd done a lot of stage fighting. Like I know how to do épée, saber, fencing, all that kind of stuff. even cloak and dagger I was trained in. But when it comes to like really fighting somebody with a pickaxe and a shovel on a moving train, I had there was no way for me to be able even to prepare for that. You know, you just had to learn all the moves and try to do them as best you can without getting hurt. You know, and of course, you know, neither of us were that experienced. So yeah, and then of course your enthusiasm kind of gets the better of you, right? You get all wound up into the scene, and then you know you end up smacking me in the gut and and winding me. What can I say? You know, these things happen.
I think if you would have said, "Yeah, I'm totally versed in fighting on a moving cart with a shovel and a pickaxe," I'd probably be more worried than saying I don't have any experience in that.
Nah, you know, I had a pretty rough. When I was younger, I grew up in actually the capital of Canada, Ottawa. But back then, it was pretty rough. The streets were rough. So I had a lot of experience in real fighting and real knives. And, you know, it's very funny. I think about, I'm always reading or hearing on the news about how high school students are so dangerous and they carry guns and knives and things. And then there's all these school shootings and stuff. You know, when I was a kid, 15 years old, we all carried knives. And I had friends who carried guns. I mean, this is not anything new. It's just that there's more kids, you know, the population has exploded. So there's more of them and there's more of a tendency to use your weaponry and everything. But basically, you always had something for defense. And when I got into the cowboy culture, the same thing happened. I mean, every cowboy carries a knife, you know, in a sheath on his belt. I've always carried a knife practically my entire life. You know, I carried a knife my entire life. So
now I feel like the culture has changed though, because that was probably common knowledge that the kids were carrying that stuff. I assume. Would I be correct in my assumption?
Well, not really. No, these are real knives, switchblades, stuff like that.
Okay, so it wasn't like, all right. It wasn't like Dad said, "Here's your knife, carry it around."
No. You know, next thing you know, you'd have it somebody would have it at your throat, you know, because they were mad about something. And I mean, that's the way I grew up. So I think probably today it's actually less than it was during my time. It's just that
Do you think that's why it sounds like you're a real city kid? Do you think that's part of what really attracted you to that cowboy culture? Is there is that element of roughness about it, but in a very different way.
Yeah, no, it wasn't so sophisticated back then. And the cowboy culture is, you know, the cowboys, I'm not into this part, but, you know, a man's a man and a woman's a woman, you know. I mean, that's the attitude. But I think I grew up in a very different time period. I mean, in my youth, what was it? It was the 50s, right? And then when the 60s happened, everything changed. You know, then it was all peace and love and flower power for a while anyway. And I was totally into that. So there was a major shift from a kind of a violence, gang-oriented mentality to a loving acceptance and what do you call that? Well, we were all in the same boat together, and we were sharing the same world. We all had the same problems, you know. That was what that was about back then, and I got right into it. And then, of course, it got subverted, and then the whole thing changed. I think was that you that one of did one of you guys post that Charlie Manson thing?
Yeah, that was me. Yes.
Yeah,
That was you.
Didn't I?
You told me about your response, and I was fascinated, so I just read it this morning.
Yeah, well, you know, that's what happened. You see, we had this wonderful thing happening for a while there, this whole kind of hippie thing. And we were making strides. We were changing things. There was a real good positive energy, and it was a groundswell. And it wasn't just here; it was all over North America and all over Europe. You know, it really meant a lot. And then things started happening. Manson was one of them. That destroyed everything. You know, he changed the whole tone of the thing. Yeah. Here he was, this long-haired, pseudo hippie, living on a commune, being a guru or a manipulating one, and sending people out to commit horrendous crimes. The other thing too is I know some people who are involved in the whole thing, and so for me it's a little bit more personal. One of my friends back then was engaged to Mama Cass Elliot, from the what were they called?
Mamas and the Papas.
Mamas and the Papas, right? They were very, very close with what's her name? The woman who was killed.
The actress, Tate.
Oh.
Yeah, Sharon Tate.
Yeah, Sharon.
So they were very close with Sharon Tate, and so I knew quite a bit about what happened, and it was a lot of the stuff that occurred. Not all of it was in the news, at the time, but I knew about it. It was really horrible. Just he didn't commit any crimes himself. I mean, he didn't dirty his hands, but he became the symbol, a different symbol. It was the wrong symbol for the time. And the guy really knew how to manipulate the media, which he still does know and is doing so right now. And that's why I was chastising you for that, because I felt that, let the dog die and let's forget about this guy. I mean, he should just throw the key away. That's it. Giving him more and more power. This guy gets such a kick out of this stuff. It gives him power, and he feels empowered by it. And I mean, the whole thing about him and this girl marrying and all that, that's just, it's just a publicity stunt. Now that they're not getting married, I bet you then they're going to get married, and then they're not going to get married again. It's a soap opera. Meanwhile, his face is out there all the time. Everybody knows about Charlie Manson, but they don't know
Charlie
him.
Don't surf.
Pardon?
Charlie Don't surf. You familiar with that?
Well, that's actually from Apocalypse Now. And that's actually a reference.
Yeah, but they have that. They turned it into a shirt.
Okay. Well,
Charles Manson and Charlie Don't surf.
In Apocalypse Now, though, it's a reference to the Vietnamese.
Oh, yeah, that was.
But yeah, it's gotten into, it's kind of like in the pop culture in a way, like
exactly.
Weirdo people. Yeah. It is interesting, but I feel like it's sort of not that it's okay per se. Like, I absolutely understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And I think it's a difficult thing if you're conscientious to navigate, because on the one hand, of course, I know Neil and myself don't condone that stuff, but it's sort of like an entertainment in a way.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's
it's like talking about it is like almost.
It's almost so ridiculous.
I think for him and me, like neutralizing it, because it is so. His celebrity is just outrageous. That this guy really is a clown in a sense. So then this is entertaining that he is doing this stuff, because what he did is not entertaining and not okay.
If you actually lived through that time, time period when it all happened, it was just the most horrific thing that you could possibly imagine. I mean, I'm not going to go into it, right? But at the same time, it had such an impact on all of us back then. It was like the Vietnam War had such a major impact on all of us. Other things too? Kennedy's murder. I mean, this is what, like, you had this wonderful kind of movement towards a goal of maybe changing the world in a positive direction. And then all of these things start happening that start chipping away at it, and then the subculture becomes fashion. And the whole thing is usurped. And now everybody's just wearing bell bottoms and wearing their hair long and necklaces and bandanas and stuff like that. And it's just part of the style, but it's meaningless. It was really quite the time, I have to admit. I left it myself. I became an entrepreneur for many years. I had my own clothing stores and a few other things. I also got into technology and virtual reality. And I had my own company. This is all like after my movie career. I left it. In fact, I left it. Let's see. When did we do MBV? That was 1980. We filmed it. 1981 it came out, I guess. And then I think I did a couple of other features after that and some television. But by 1985, 86, I did some theater. Yeah. No, but by about 86 to 89, I pretty well packed it in. I was disenchanted with the whole business, and I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy anyway. That was kind of like my personality at the time. But no, I wasn't happy with the movie business. Although I did go down to New York. I auditioned for what's his name? The Italian director there who did all the spaghetti westerns with Clint Eastwood.
I don't know. I don't know enough westerns.
Well, he's famous though. The Good, Bad, and the Ugly.
What is his name? I'll know.
Have you never seen that movie, The Good, Bad, and the Ugly?
I have.
Yeah. Oh, Eastwood.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know him.
Well, he met the director.
The director. Yeah. He's very famous. I can't remember his name.
Sergio Leone.
Pardon?
Sergio Leone.
That's it, Leone. So he was doing a new movie called Once Upon a Time in America.
Oh, very underrated movie.
Yeah, that's so I went down there to audition for the lead opposite De Niro. Who my main competition was the guy who played Prince of the City. What's that actor's name? Prince of the City. Anyway, I can't remember right now. Of course, I can't remember names. That's one thing I'm very bad at. I can remember details from 50 years ago, but I can't remember a name. It must be some kind of defect, mental defect or something that I have. Anyway, I didn't get the role, but neither did the guy who was competing against me. Instead, it went to
James Woods. James Woods.
James Woods. Yeah. You're right. Out of nowhere, he came. And I thought, well, that's weird because that's not the type they were looking for at all. They were looking for a dark kind of handsome, chiseled-looking guy who could pass for an Italian, basically. And
that's not James Woods.
And that's not Woods.
I love James Woods, but no.
No, I loved it. He's an amazing actor. But no, it wasn't him. It threw me for a loop, and I'm sure the other actor too. But that's about as far as I went. I went down to LA for a while too. But I don't know why. I was just I was trying to deal with the Canadian film industry, and it was really at the time very. It was heavily subsidized by the government. And there were a lot of producers who were taking advantage of the money and turning out all kinds of schlock. And the roles were no good. The scripts are lousy. It was just a big con altogether. And a lot of these movies never, ever made it off the shelf. So that was a whole very bad period in the movie industry here in Canada. And I got totally fed up. And I drank a lot at that time too. So I was really an alcoholic, which is obviously not a way of life of stability, mental or physical. So that kind of screwed things up. A lot of actors, though, become alcoholics. I suppose you must know that by now. It's a tough life because you're always you live by night. Basically.
Yeah.
You sleep by day, you live by night, you party, you drink. And it's high stress. Sometimes it's a feast or famine. That's the way it goes, Yeah.
Well, you guys don't always have work. That's a tough way to live. Like a contractor.
Yeah, but you see, the thing is, that the carrot on the stick is I'm making $5,000 a week.
Yeah.
And then I'm making nothing. So
it's like a contractor. I knew a mason, same thing. I made like a stonemason, same thing. When he got a job, he was set. And then it'd be, you don't know, a month, 2 months, who knows?
I know it was really well. You just have to have a certain kind of personality, a character. You have to have a strong character to be able to pull that off. Some people have real stick-withedness, even though they don't have a lot of talent, and they're able to get. They work for years and years and years, and that's I've always kind of admired that. Really, I thought I was pretty shit hot back then. But like I said, I was I was arrogant, and I liked to party a lot, and we partied an awful lot, and the film industry is the best way to go about that too, because there's just like a party about every second, and people are really, everybody's outlandish and over the top, and and even in Canada, can you believe it? I mean, this isn't Hollywood, But anyway, that's it's an old story now for me.
Well, once you got out of that, did you ever miss that?
Not really. I missed the excitement. I missed the limousines in the morning to come pick me up. I missed the money. Stuff like that. But really, those were just the trappings. The actual work itself, not really. I don't think I ever did anything of any real import in terms of work. The good stuff I did, I thought, was in the theater. I did do a couple of films I was kind of proud of. One was for the CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting Company. It was a feature. And there was another one. I can't remember what it was now. But I know. Yeah, it was a theater piece that was turned into a production, a film production. That was very good. But like I said, most of my grounding is in the theater, and that's what I probably like the most. The only thing I like better about film, which is it's a very interesting transition. Do you ever hear of a director named Claude Jutra?
No.
No, he's a very famous director in the history of Canadian film, especially in Quebec. He did a movie called Mon Oncle Antoine, my uncle Antoine, and which got all kinds of accolades worldwide. He was a very humble man. Anyways, he was a friend of mine. And one day I asked him, I said, because I was thinking of transitioning from the theater to film, and I said to him, how long do you think it would take me, to learn, to make the transition from theater acting to film acting? Like, how long would it take me to learn this? And he thought for a moment, and he kind of scratched his head, and he said, about 10 minutes. But it's true, because when you get in front of the camera, you can do it over again, right? And it depends on the budget, of course, but I'll tell you, Mahalka was a one-take guy, but sometimes you get a little luxury, and you might be able to do 3 to 10 takes, depending on what the situation is. But you can always do it over again. Whereas in the theater, it's live. You're there. The audience is there. It's all happening right there and then. And you screw up. Well, there's no turning back on that one. It's done. You're there. So it's the opportunity to be able to get it right in front of a camera is very, very different than the theater experience. But that tension in the theater is what makes it so exciting.
Yeah.
Being live.
I would also think the immediate reaction from the crowd.
Yeah, exactly. You get it. Well, you get feedback too. If it's any good, you'll get feedback from the crew.
Okay.
Sometimes if you've done a scene really well, everybody claps at the end. Or the cameraman looks up and gives you an okay sign, that was really good. Or I got that, like I got you there, boy. You kind of live for that type of stuff because but you can feel the tension, if you're doing it right, you can hear a pin drop, and it's a very high pressure moments it's all very condensed, and then suddenly it's over, and then maybe you need a little break, and then if it's not quite as good as it needs to be, you can do it over again, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very different tension, but both I think are equally as exciting, but the money's quite different. I have to admit. And also, you only work on a film for so long, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think the longest I ever worked on a play, I think I did a tour once that was 4 months long. But generally, when you do a play, it's only a month or two or three, and it's every day. Whereas with a film, you're shooting a different thing every day, and then it's over. That's it. And then there's no afterwards, you know, except until the movie comes out, and then it's a whole other thing. So that's it's an interesting transition trying to juggle the two. Television is a whole other thing. You know, I did. You ever watch Littlest Hobo?
I have not.
But you know it's a dog show, right? Like Rin Tin Tin or something.
Okay, all right.
Anyway, I did quite a few of those, and that's television is like that's really, really a different tension altogether.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really explain. It's less. Plus, a lot of it is tape, so that you can erase and redo. You know, you don't have to keep. You can watch, and then also you don't have a whole bunch of cameras. You do have a bunch of cameras actually, so that they're getting all different points of view.
Mm-hmm.
If it's video, and that's another thing, as opposed to one camera focusing in on you, or one audience focusing in on you. You know. Also, there's a lot of artifice in television, a lot of CGI, a lot of green screen or blue screen, and you're in an environment that's completely false, which is not easy to do. I have to admit, you have to really use your imagination to know where you are, and you know they try to give you an atmosphere, but if you watch modern television shows today, you know, you see somebody walking down the street, cars are going by, people are going by, they're in Chicago or something like that, and really they're just in an empty room, you know, or, like a Superman movie or something like that. You know, it's all done. It's all smoke and mirrors is what I always called it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not an easy thing to do. You have to have a very active imagination to be able to pull that off for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Well,
Anyways, I don't know how I got into that one.
No, it's fine. What got you? What made you want to become an actor? Was there a specific? Was there movies that you liked, or TV shows, or how did you get involved in it? Why did you want to pursue it?
Well, you know, I think if you ask any male actor, especially if he's honest about the beginnings of his career, I would say it's, you know, the girls. I'm
like
serious.
playing a guitar. It's like being in a band.
Yeah, exactly. You know, why do you want to be a rock star? You know, yeah, it's the women. And of course, actresses are beautiful. And you're with beautiful people all the time. So, yeah, no, that's, I think it starts in adolescence. And I don't know if you totally grow up for a long time. That's why you have so many scandals in Hollywood. The way people act is so kind of erratic in terms of relationships and stuff. So, yeah, that's what I would say. That's my answer. But then afterwards, I really wanted to become an artist, with quotation marks around that. And I really wanted to do theater early on. I was acting since I was 5. So, in fact, my first professional
What were you doing?
What was I doing? Well, I went to acting classes when I was around 6 years old to about 10 or 11. And then I did my first professional gig on stage that I got paid for. I was a tour when I was 11 years old. We did Peter Pan.
Wow. How
And
did this even happen? Did you have that? Was this a part of your family culture? Or they just said this kid is made for doing this?
no, I don't think so. But I grew up in Paris, France, and my parents were artists. So that was the milieu that I grew up in. In fact, when I was, let's see, around 3 years old, I think, uh, you've heard of Buster Keaton, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he babysat me. And I always thought that he probably did all the goo 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 gaga stuff with me and tried to entertain me while he was babysitting me. And I probably got it from him. That's what I always thought.
Yeah.
And we had all kinds of people there. And my parents were like artists who had like a salon. Back then, this is France. This is, Paris, 1940s and 50s, and, the Hemingway era and all that stuff. All kinds of people were there in Paris then.
Yeah.
Duke Ellington played in our living room. Laurel and Hardy were there.
Wow.
Buster Keaton, all these people. I mean, I didn't know them from, whatever. These were just funny people to me. And it was just a lot of music and party, party, party. I mean, that's the way I grew up, until I was around 6 or 7. So I guess that was the beginning right there, really. That must have had a major influence on me because all these people were performers in one sense or the other. And and my parents were artistic, so I just kind of assumed that was the way to go, the arts, And but back then, and even later on, up until I was around 20, it was a lot of fun. And when you start working, that's when it starts becoming something else. For one thing, you have to earn a living, which is not easy as an actor.
Yeah.
Anywhere, especially in Canada. And you have to make a living. You have to take it seriously. You have to be professional. You have to be able to think ahead. You have to make career moves. That has nothing to do with the art of it, Yeah. But if your mind's not there, you're not going to succeed. It's just it's a rough game, And that's what it ends up being, really, is a kind of a game. And you're playing cat and mouse with reality at that point. And you can easily fail. And a lot of people do. And it's quite tragic, really. The amount of people that, fall by the wayside is way more than the people who actually make it in the business. Even in the support roles or smaller roles, or the commercial industry, something I could never do, by the way. I was at one time for the McDonald's clown.
Ronald McDonald?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
And the only reason I went to the audition, I couldn't quite see it, but I thought the contract was for $5 million. What could I do? I'm going to say, no, I'm not going to go to that. So I went. Of course, I didn't get it. I could never get enthusiastic about like selling hamburgers or tires, or deodorant.
The chicken McNuggets.
Oh.
Those McNuggets were cute.
Oh,
who wouldn't want to talk to those?
I went to an audition one time where the guy said, "Can you take off your shirt?" I said, "Okay." He said, "Now lift your arms up above your head." And I said, "Okay." And they were shooting. I said, "What are you doing?" They were auditioning my pits. It was a deodorant commercial. That is so demeaning. You have no idea. You spend half your youth, trying to learn how to be an actor, and there you are auditioning your pits, This is not what I had in mind at all. And I don't care how good the money was. I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't do commercials. To the chagrin of my agent, I'll tell you, because they want you to be able to do everything. And then the more you do, the more notoriety you have, the more famous you become, But I couldn't cut that. I was just too, just not commercially viable, I don't think. But, That's the way it is. You know, you're going to cut it or you're not. That's you. There's no halfway mark kind of thing.
Do you do commercials for cowboy hats? How about that?
Oh, I don't know. Have you
Find a
seen the
good company
commercial?
you can represent. Then you
Have
can at
you
least
seen
get
that
free
Jeff
hats.
Bridges?
Oh,
You
what is
seen that Jeff Bridges commercial that's on now? He's
What is it?
yeah. Jeff Bridges is on is on TV right now, and he's promoting his website. But he's actually promoting the website provider. But
Mm-hmm.
he's got a site on their what do you call it? Whatever it is, and
Yeah.
he has his own page. In other words, on their site, he's promoting their site and his page. So he's sitting there and he's going, You haven't seen that?
It sounds
No.
familiar. It
Now
sounds
I want
familiar to
to.
me.
Oh God, I've seen it like almost every single day in the last week on I don't know, CNN, a bunch of other mostly American programs. Yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
pretty funny. I mean, I know what he's doing because he's not the kind of guy who's very commercial either. Never has been really. He's done a few things when he was younger, but he was a pretty serious man altogether.
Yeah.
You know, and just to see him doing this in his old age is really quite funny.
It is weird.
Anyways,
You
I
do see
sympathize.
more and more of that. Like, who is James Earl Jones was real hot for a while with the, I don't know if it's AT&T, and Patrick Stewart was voiceover for, I don't know if it's a car insurance company or something.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I went to Japan a couple of years ago, and oh shoot, I just forgot his name. He's done a bajillion things. Crap. He was in you'll know he was Two-Face in that crappy Batman movie.
Oh, I know. I can't think of his name either. But I know what you mean.
He's so well known.
Uh-huh.
He's
Tommy Lee Jones.
Oh.
Tommy Lee Jones.
Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah.
Everywhere in Japan. Very serious looking. He's wearing a suit. Looks very, he looks like him. Very serious, nice. And it's for a coffee drink that comes in a little can that you can buy in like their version of, the little convenience stores there. And it's this highly caffeinated little drink that you can get out of, you can get hot or cold. And that he was everywhere. He was on the sides of the dispensers. So it's weird to see. Nicolas Cage was on a big giant display in some fancy town there selling a watch.
Yeah.
Very weird.
That's an interesting phenomena because you see, a lot of these actors who are serious actors don't, at that time, did not want to be seen as a commercial huckster, right? Hawking a product. Yeah. But in the Asian market, which nobody would see over here, they could get away with doing that and making a whole bunch of extra cash. And that's what they did. Yeah. And there's actually quite a few actors who have, major actors who have done that. And because the Asian market is huge, it actually drives the Hollywood industry at this point. I don't know if you realize that.
I saw an article about Transformers making it so huge. I think it was China because the age group that was interested when China's government was revolutionized, they started being able to get Transformers toys.
Right.
So that generation, that's a huge part of their culture. And so now I guess that director that did the Transformers film,
Michael Bay,
he was in talks. Yeah, he was in talks with the government to make sure everything was approved, that they were putting certain things in it. It was wild. It was an NPR story. Yeah. Really, really interesting.
That's why they changed the Mandarin in Iron Man 3, because in the comic books the Mandarin is from China, and in the movie they made him a Middle Eastern guy because
Ben Kingsley.
Yeah, they didn't want him to be a Chinese villain because they thought it would do bad then in China.
It started about 6 years ago that they realized they had this huge market in Asia, but Asians wanted 3D movies. Asians they don't want to go to anything else unless it is 3D. Mm-hmm. And that's where all this 3D stuff started happening big time. even this new My Bloody Valentine, the remake,
yeah,
that was
right.
3D.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole raison d'etre of these movies is to sell to the Asian market. It's enormous, like really enormous. Wow. And it's not just the theater, but that's where they sell their DVDs and their Blu-rays, etc. And it's become that's why there are so many remakes as well, because everybody in Asia has heard of. Let's see, what's a remake recently that really disturbed me.
It was really terrible. All of them.
No, it was okay. It was good. It just bothers me that an original then is eclipsed by the remake.
Right.
You know, and people don't even know there was an original.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a big problem in the horror community, because we all know these older films that they're entertaining, they're good as they are. There's a charm to them, and then this.
Well, they were unique at the time.
Comes in.
Yeah.
Total Recall is what I was thinking of.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
So now the original Total Recall I thought was a brilliant piece in terms of science fiction. Mm-hmm. And it just had some wonderful stuff, and it was really new, fresh. Now they make a whole new Total Recall with all the bells and whistles, right? Every CGI effect that they can possibly get in there, it's in there. And with a new star. Now, everybody's heard of Schwarzenegger. Everybody's heard of Total Recall in Asia because it was a famous American movie. Now they can sell a new Total Recall to them because they want to see those movies, but they don't sell them the old ones. They sell them a brand new one, and it's in 3D, which is what they want. And it's got all the bells and whistles. It's got all the CGI. It's got everything, and it's got a new famous actor. So, it's a whole new brand thing is what they're doing there. People don't realize Hollywood is now, without Asia, Hollywood it was down in the dumps there for a while. And in a way, I think they still are, because there's nothing new. It's all rehashed now. Everything, even the TV shows. Now you've got famous actors, movie actors, starring in TV shows.
Yeah.
That's, they're getting old.
I think for in the last 10 years, for the most part, the TV shows are better than the movies that come out.
Yes.
Oh, really?
I'm like Breaking Bad.
TV shows that are blowing.
I mean, not all TV shows, but like a show like
Divorce Lawyers.
See, I'm not saying all TV shows,
Modern Family, that show's hilarious.
I mean, like shows like Breaking Bad, Sopranos. There's a lot of quality TV shows. No, I'm not saying that doesn't mean all the TV shows are great, but yeah.
Well, it's true. I watch a lot of TV, so it's not like I don't know. Mm-hmm. But and every once in a while, I'll check out a reality show just to see if it's going to make me sick or not. But really, what's on TV right now drives me crazy. There's some good dramas. Mm-hmm. There's some nice light fare. I'm really not into comedy at all. Unless it's look, Bill Maher is funny, that's funny. But
have you seen Modern Family? Try it.
I've seen some of it. I couldn't get past 10 minutes, honestly. I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem.
With all due respect, it's just not my thing. It's just so silly to me. It's like, hey, I grew up on Father Knows Best. Leave it to Beaver. I know how silly all that stuff is. Besides which, as an actor, sometimes I'm a movie spoiler. Like Heather and I, we watch a movie, okay, and then I start commenting because I can see the artifice. Mm-hmm. I can see what the actor is doing. I don't believe him, because I know where he's coming from in that moment. I know also, the more vacant you are as an actor, the better you are, because people don't realize that the only time you ever see a person so close up, like right in their face, eye to eye, is when you're intimate with somebody. That's why people end up having crushes on actors. because it feels like they've been with them almost, there's a sexualization through the eyes that happens. I mean, when do you get to see a human being 40 feet wide, just their two eyes? You never see that in real life. It's an illusion, right? And what you're doing is you're looking so intently into the eyes, and every little, what do you call it, refraction of light, every glint, every moisture in the eye is meaningful. But there's really nothing going on. you know I mean, I don't know, do I sound
No, it's interesting.
negative?
It's very interesting theory. I'm digging it. It's very interesting.
Well, it is that way. And a really good actor, like some of the big ones, like even Paul Newman, but Brad Pitt is perfect. Brad Pitt is the epitome of it right now. He's a good actor. I'm not saying he's not. He's a very good actor, but he really knows how to let the camera do its magic.
Yeah.
You can look concerned. It's like, here's the old trick, Let's say you're playing a really dry character, a cranky old man or something, feels like he's got sawdust in his mouth all the time. Like, that's how cranky he is. Well, if you put some sawdust in your pocket and feel it with your hand while you're thinking of the scene and doing it, you'll play the sawdust. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's nothing else going on. It's all artifice. And that's the way actors do things. You can't help but do that. You can't be, it's an intense experience. Lovemaking, for example. I've done, I did a soap opera one time. I think they call it an adult soap opera. And I was not at all prepared for this. But, I mean, you're in bed with a woman you don't know, Well, you've gotten to know a little bit because you're acting with her, and you're naked, and you're simulating some kind of sex. Yeah. Well, my God. I mean, you got to be thinking, what am I doing? What this isn't what I signed up for, and people go, well, Jesus, Paul, I mean, if I was in your shoes, I wouldn't be complaining, but that's not the way it is. There's something real there. It's very hard to do. And you've really, the only way to handle that is to make it real. And it's very hard when you have 20 guys standing around smirking, holding the lights and cameras all around you and heavy duty light coming at you and a director who's intent on you, and just the whole thing. And you're there vulnerable, naked, having pretend sex and making love to this woman. And it's just completely bizarre. I don't know how these guys do it. I get embarrassed sometimes watching some of these movies, and some of these TV shows where, I mean, every few minutes somebody's, having sex all of a sudden. They're ripping their clothes off. And I'm thinking, where is this coming from? I mean, is it necessary? It's, what's a really good example? What's that show with the girl? She's a spy for the CIA. She's blonde.
What is the name of the show?
Is that Nikita?
No, it's
Nikita.
No, it's
I know that one for you.
No, Nikita. Yeah, okay.
No,
there's Nikita.
No,
but that's not what I'm thinking.
It's on Showtime when she falls in love with the Middle East. Well, he's not from Middle East, but he's a double agent kind of spy guy.
Yeah. So there's that one, and there's another one that's very similar. Actually, there's 3 shows that I've seen. Each one is a blonde. Each one does they're good actresses. There's no doubt about that. These are real actors. But they're kind of like, the idea is that these spy women, kind of like James Bond, only in the reverse, are all sex crazed. And so every other scene or every few scenes, there's got to be some kind of sexual happening, And I think, well, I mean, what has that got to do with anything? And really, are these women that loose? I mean, how could you be a spy and be that loose?
James Bond did it.
Well, yeah, but it's okay. You know what the perception is, of course. A man can have
Hmm.
multiple partners, but if a woman does that, she's a
Hmm.
slut. You know,
Yeah.
and that's kind of like the common perception. You see it all the
Hmm.
time. You hear about it all the time. It's completely out of whack. But um, even James Bond did it with some kind of grace. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, my favorite was Sean Connery. So when I say James Bond, that's who I mean. But
Yeah.
the others, not so much. Although, yeah, not so much. I don't know. What do you think of the new guy who's playing James Bond? What's his name?
I actually think he's because I know most people love James Bond movies, but I was never big on them when I was growing up. But I actually really like the recent James Bond movies. I think they're a little grittier and they're more realistic.
In actual fact, I think that in the novels themselves, I've read them all several times during my growing up and into my 20s. I remember I still like them. Um, but he actually was a blonde. He wasn't a dark, swarthy guy.
Hmm.
You know, he was
Hmm.
a blonde guy, and he was a tough, a rough edge to him. Not particularly couth in a lot of ways, but very sophisticated at the same time. An interesting combination. Those were really well written pulp novels, I'll tell you.
Hmm.
And the movies are brilliant. I've actually enjoyed them all, but I mean, it was Sean Connery has always been my man. The guy is such a great actor. He's taken so many risks with his career. Do you ever see him in
Yeah.
Zardoz?
Yes. Yes.
You know,
Yes.
I mean, there he is.
It
He's
was
like 40
wild.
something years old. He's half
Yep.
naked all the time, wearing, a piece of cloth with a hair down his back and in a ponytail and acting like an ape. And I mean,
Hmm.
who does that? I mean, who takes a risk and does that kind of acting, when they're known for something else? I
Hmm.
mean, that was really quite something. He was originally Mr. Scotland. That's how he got cast. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah,
No.
that's what he was a bodybuilder, and he was Mr. Scotland, and the guys, Broccoli and the other guy who produced the original James Bonds, they saw a picture of him in a British magazine, and they said, "Now there's the guy we need," and they auditioned him and they hired him. That's how it all started.
Well.
He didn't. He had to take acting lessons because he felt so bad because he hadn't really had no acting ability.
Uh huh.
So then
That's
he
amazing.
then he you know so then he learned how to act, and then he did stage work and a bunch of other stuff, and he got better and better and better. And oh, that's quite the story. Have you seen the film, the documentary about him and the guys who produced the James Bond films and all the problems?
No.
They hated each other.
No, I would definitely like to
No.
see that. Yeah.
Oh, you've got to see that. That's just a fabulous documentary. It was just a complete love hate relationship through the whole thing. Lawsuits back and forth. Uh,
Wow.
I mean, it was like horrendous. I mean, it really took its toll on all of them. One of them ended up dying as a result. One of the producers there,
Wow.
and the two guys who were the producers fought tooth and nail, and they were the closest of friends and became the worst of enemies. Didn't even talk
Yeah.
for 10 years. I mean, and Sean Connery was in the middle, right, trying to appease both sides and trying to get his own way at the same time. Remember, never again. He would never do another James Bond again. Never say never.
Yeah. That's
That's
when.
why. That's why they did that movie.
Yeah. Yeah. When he comes
Finally they
back.
offered him the money that he deserved.
Hmm.
You know, he wanted millions of dollars because they made a fortune off this guy, and
Hmm.
Yeah.
he got dick out of it. So
Yeah.
he was really really pissed off, and he finally got his way. But it took him like I don't know how long, 10, 15 years before and he was so famous, and yet now he's a lord. He's a lord in the Scottish Parliament. He's
Hmm.
married to this wonderful woman, and they have their own little island paradise. I mean, he's an amazing story, I think, as an actor. I've always, um, I've always admired him. If there was an actor that I would like to have been like, it would have been him. You know, It probably sounds real corny.
No.
No, it's not at all.
Yeah. By the
No.
way,
It's nice. It's a nice sentiment.
Mhm.
It sounds fascinating. I didn't know really that much about. I don't know many people who don't like Sean Connery. I can't think of anyone I've ever known that said I don't like Sean Connery. But that's interesting. I don't really know anything about the guy. That's all very interesting.
Yeah, yeah. No, I've always he was my hero for a long time. Well, still is. I just think he was just a fabulous human being and a great actor, highly underrated as an actor.
Mhm.
You know, but I don't have too many heroes. I have to admit. I mean, there are some actors that I like to watch a lot. Like I'll watch anything with them in it, although I can't think of one right now.
Mhm.
But gee, I wish I could think of one right now. Who do I respond to? I don't know. I suppose if I like Brad Pitt. I have to admit, everybody
Yeah.
likes Brad Pitt. I love her a lot more. I think she's one of the most fantastic actresses I have ever seen in my entire life on film. And that includes some of the greats like Garbo and all of those, you know. I mean, she's really incredible. I just I have crushes on, you know, it's funny, isn't it? Eh? I'm an actor, but I have crushes on women on TV and in
Mhm.
film.
That's how you figured out that thing about the eyes.
Yeah, I you know, some actors don't know how to show their vulnerability. And
Yeah.
it's obvious with her that I keep saying her. What's her name? Um,
Who's Angelina?
Angelina Jolie.
Angelina. Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, she's a very not only she's a very brave woman, um, and she's an extraordinary actress at the same time. And she does a lot of good. That's the other thing about her that I really respect is what she's done. I mean, there's so many actors out there who make so much money, and what do they do? You know, they buy houses and cars and casinos, and oh, and they start burger chains. Wahlburger
Oh, that.
Oh,
is
We're
the
actually
great.
we're slated to go visit the Wahlburger
yeah, because
and check it out.
we do
And
a video.
that's near us.
Yeah.
It's close enough that we're going to make a trip and evaluate
Because
Wahlburgers.
we do a video series, Dinner and a Movie, where we'll go see a movie and then we'll review the movie over dinner. So it's kind of a combination of both, reviewing movie
Yeah.
and food. And since Wahlburgers is near us, we decided, yeah. Actually, my mom has said that we should go see Wahlburgers.
I just think that is the crassest thing I have ever seen, and
What?
it's just. I mean, he's not a bad actor. I can't put the two together. The
Mhm.
good actor
Oh,
and
give him his
this.
restaurant. Come on now.
Oh, please! But
Give
a
him his
burger
restaurant.
joint. It is like so completely uncool right now to be uh,
No.
killing more cattle for, you know. This is opening up a kettle of fish, I'll tell you, because you know that the burgers that you get in these burger joints, especially like McDonald's, any fast food industry,
Mhm.
these are cows that are milking cows that die of
Mhm.
fatigue. Once they're dead, then they chop them up and make burgers for burger chains. You understand?
Mhm.
Yep.
It's not the cattle
Pretty
that's
gross.
raised for the meat.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's the dead meat that happens as a consequence of poor conditions, especially in the milking industry. So what you're
That's
getting is
gross.
you're getting a really substandard deal here. And of course, like they'll say, for example, all it's all beef.
Mhm.
Well, all the beef that's in it is all beef. But what else is in there? You know what I'm saying?
It's not
It's
going to be a
very,
pig.
I have a friend who was a major advertising executive in New York. He handled
Mhm.
accounts like Sugar Pops and just a whole bunch of like really famous cereals and stuff. So
Yeah.
I know quite a bit about the advertising agency or business today. And I'll tell you, it's so crass because I mean they fool you they just there is no information when in a commercial, for example. That's why I could never do these things because in a commercial, you're basically lying. Now, if you're
Mhm.
okay with that, because you want to make the money and you want to make a living. All right. But I could never do that. It was just, that was just way, way, way out of line for me. And that's what they're doing. Like, who are you talking about earlier? A commercial that you saw in Japan with him in it?
Tommy Lee
Oh
Jones.
yeah, Tommy Lee Jones selling it's a coffee drink called Boss.
Right, right. Well, you see that now they have all these big name actors selling, doing commercials for an insurance company. Oh, I know, Reverse Mortgage. Have you seen that one?
Yeah.
Who are the people in it?
Who? Tommy Lee Jones is one of them.
Oh, okay. I don't watch TV ever anymore.
Oh, I see.
It's not like I ban TV. Honestly, if I see a TV show, it's on the internet with no commercials.
Well,
or
true
Netflix
enough.
with no commercials.
We have like the whole gamut, the super channels, the movie channels, all that stuff. So yeah, we do watch a lot of non-commercial stuff, but I can't help because what I do is I watch CNN, I watch the Euro News, I watch the BBC News, I watch, I try to hit them all and get all the stories and the different vantage points, because you can't just watch one because it's propaganda. So you have to kind of like pick through all the different propaganda and the leftist, the rightist, and all of that stuff until you kind of get somewhere, some kind of truth kind of evolves or rises to the top, and like cream, and you say, okay, well that's the flavor today. But I do end up as a result seeing commercials, which is a drag. And anyways, there's this one thing in the States called, what did I call it? Reverse mortgage. Okay, reverse mortgage is a real scam, because what they do is they take your house and they give you all the money for your house, including like the original amount. So, and you can then take that as a retirement, and you still get to own the house. Now that's weird, don't you think? That they're going to give you a reverse mortgage and you still get to keep your house and you get all the money that it's worth. As long as it's in your family. But they don't tell you that. So what happens is if you die and your son or your daughter can't move into it. They have a house already. Then the house belongs to them, to that company. And this is what really you end up losing your house. That's what you do. And you lose your legacy to your children, etc. So as long as you're alive and you're living in it, you're fine. But they're counting on you dying because you're getting that money because you're trying to boost your retirement money. So you're already old enough. And it's only a matter of time before you die and they get your house. So it's, and of course by then it's worth much more. So that's the scam, but people don't realize that. And so they have nothing to leave their family when they die. Because the family can't sell the house and et cetera, because it's not theirs anymore. Anyways, you've got all these big name actors.
Yeah, I know the Fonz does one of those ads.
And I'm so repulsed by it. I just don't understand. Do they not realize? Do they not? Maybe they don't care. Maybe they don't know what they're actually advertising. They're just saying the lines, and they're taking home the $1 million. Maybe that's it. But if I were an actor and I that had any scruples, I think I would look into the product that I'm hawking, and say, well, make a choice. A lot of it is because these guys are on their way out. They're not. These are old actors, right? I mean, Tommy Lee Jones is not a young man; he's a very old man at this point. So I kind of understand where it's coming from. But at the same time, I cringe every time I see these things. I mean, it's not that I haven't lived my life, in an aesthetic way either. But at this point in my life, I think I've put away all the crapola that I what's the word, adhered to, subscribed to. And things are different now, as you get older. I think that, I don't know how old you guys are, but I'm sure you're younger than I am. And it's things take on different priorities now, you know. Like there's no legacy, for example, with this environmental problem that we're having. What's the point about making money and selling this and doing that and getting excited about this when there's not going to be a here and now? They're talking like 15, 20, 25 years, the earth is going to be unlivable for human beings. Maybe that's not such a bad thing. maybe, you know, we're going to be eclipsed and we'll come back somehow. I don't know. But it doesn't seem as if a lot of the stuff that's going on right now is worthwhile until we solve this environmental problem. And it's just going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. I live in a country right now that is not dealing with it. Our prime minister did not even attend the international conference on the environment. He didn't even attend it. We haven't signed any agreements on the environment. And the United States has got a bad record too, even though Obama is trying to do the right thing, you know, and especially with the XL pipeline, you know, I mean, he's going to veto it, thank God. But you see, here, I don't know if this is at all of interest to anybody, but you see what happens with this XL pipeline is starting in Alberta. It's filthy, dirty oil. It's unrefined. It comes out of this sand pit that, and they extract the oil from this sand. And then what they want to do is they want to be able to ship it through the United States to the coast, where it then goes to China. It doesn't go in. It's not for Americans. It's for China. But if it's vetoed, which it's going to be by Obama, they have a secondary plan, which our prime minister is hawking as well. He was pushing, lobbying the United States to get the XL pipeline through. Doesn't look as if it's going to happen. So he's got a backup plan. The backup plan is it's going to go through Canada, from the west coast all the way to the east coast. Now, that's a very long distance, like 4,500, 5,000 miles. All the way through environmental protected lands, through water sources, through environments where animals are, and near cities. One spill and the whole thing just blows up in everybody's face. And it's unbelievable. And that he's going to try this. Canadians are just, so many people just don't understand what the repercussions are. There is a huge group that does, though. And, you know, I post stuff protesting this all the time because it's such a serious thing. I mean, a 5,000-mile pipeline throughout Canada through populated areas. I mean, and of course, this XL, the company, they've had 5 major spills in the last year alone. You don't hear about them. You don't see it on the news, you know, but you can find it. You can Google it and find it, you know, or you can go to my page and you'll see it there, you know. But I just don't see that, you know, people can be so concerned about making big dollars and, you know, just going after all this kind of this whole consumerist economy just drives me crazy. I was a big part of it myself. Believe me, when you're making $5,000 a week, you spend money, you consume, you go out, you spend money in expensive restaurants, you know, expensive clothes, you drink really good wine, blah, 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 blah. You know, what a waste of time. What a waste of your energy. You know, none of that stuff really matters in the end. There's no, it's good. The wine's gone. The money's gone. You know, it's just, there's nothing lasting about that kind of lifestyle. So when you end up, I guess, around my age and you've been through all of that and committed all the sins that, you know, that you could handle, you look back and you go, well, what was all that about? And look what we're doing now. It's just gotten worse. I mean, when I was a hippie, you know, we were against all this stuff. And then all of a sudden we became involved in it. And then we became that. We became the next generation of consumers. And now I'm back to hippiedom. It's weird, really. But I mean, it's the only way to go at this point. If you're not conscious, you're dying. And that's what we're doing, where civilization is dying. That's the way I feel. And I think, but to bring it back to the horror movies, I think that's what the whole zombie culture is all about. You know, I mean, there is this internal, almost instinctual knowledge that we are exactly that. We are turning into zombies. There is an apocalypse coming if we're not more careful about our awareness and how we live our lives. You know, and it's all translated into this kind of zombie. What do you call that? Almost like a zombie ethic. You know,
The
we have here.
apocalypse.
Do you have zombie walks where you are?
Yeah, they have. It's really it's I can understand being in the movies into the films and all this stuff, but it's weird that people actually prepare for the
Really
zombie
into it.
apocalypse. That like
Well, they want to be actors too. No, really. I
I
mean,
guess.
everybody likes to dress up.
Uh
Remember
huh.
Halloween when you were a kid?
Hmm.
I mean,
I
No,
remember Halloween now.
the
Have you
walk
seen my
I
profile picture?
yeah, I can understand the walk and everything that for fun, but there are people that actually prepare, like they'll
Yeah.
stockpile food and prepare for the zombie apocalypse, like it's
They have
actually gonna
that's what
happen.
you're
weapons.
talking about. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I had the money. I think I would have a shelter. I
but
really
not for
would.
zombies,
But
but
not
for
Well,
from
no, not
zombies.
for zombies.
uh,
But I might be afraid of a plague,
hmm
you know?
But that's realistic.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I
no,
mean, I guess it theoretically could zombies happen.
no.
I guess it's possible that some point in time, science or whatever could create something that mutates, maybe. But
Oh, okay.
whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
Whatever. That's like really, to me, a kind of an extreme
Yeah. But you're not going to have a walking
possibility.
dead.
But
right, and it's
You
not,
know?
and
yeah.
yeah, I always think it's because it's kind of like they all assume they'll be just like the George Romero zombies, where you'll shoot
Yeah.
them in the head and they'll die. I mean, that's just something that was made up for a movie.
Yeah. Well,
Here's the thing: everybody thinks that if they prepare, they're going to survive. I've said if there's a zombie apocalypse, I need one thing, and that's a gun with one bullet.
there's a
That's my
there's
zombie
a zombie
apocalypse.
killing school.
Goodbye.
Yeah, it's really crazy.
There
I
is a
feel
zombie walk here where people dress up like zombies,
Uh huh.
and it's
yeah,
like 5,000 of them
Hmm.
in
yeah,
Toronto. It happens every year. I think in
yeah,
most major cities, right?
Yeah, I think there's
The
one in
zombie walk.
Boston.
yeah. I
There's
know
got
they
to be
had
one in
one in
Boston.
Salem,
Uh huh.
which is about 45 minutes north of here. But you know what they do? They have these shoot. There are these competitions where there's like an obstacle course, and everybody gets all pumped up about it. And so they'll have however many hundred people run this obstacle course, and you have to get all buff for it. Well, they have zombie versions
Yes.
where zombies are chasing you and coming at you throughout the process of you doing this
I know. I know.
giant obstacle course. It's fascinating.
Zombie school. That's what it is. It's learn how to kill a zombie, how to prepare for the apocalypse. It's very funny. It's creative. It's a game, but some people take this very seriously.
Right.
There's all kinds of crazies out there. I mean,
I kind of don't, it's a weird thing. It's like people, like you mentioned, people at some level, I think have this dread about the future and the real lack of control most people feel about what's really, really happening.
yeah,
I think
of
most
course.
people feel that a vote doesn't count, that recycling doesn't count, that any of these things that are supposedly like good, that it doesn't matter.
But
So they're going to prepare for something that in their mind they could have control over.
Yeah.
It's so like any kid with make believe. You have that make believe world where you're now the adult and you're in charge, and you know what I mean?
Yeah. But I think that there's so much propaganda out there to make you feel that way. It's not true that your vote doesn't count. Your vote really does count. What happens is that, 30 to 40% of the population, the voting population only turns out to vote. That means 60 to 70% of the entire country is not with what's going on. They didn't elect these people. And most of it is they just don't vote. Sometimes they don't even know about that they're supposed to vote for something. Like you have midterm elections and stuff in Congress. People are not on purpose, are not informed about all this stuff. But on that note that Annabelle was saying, I think that people are intentionally disenfranchised. There are so many forces out there that want to make sure that you don't realize that you have power. That's that's the way I see it.
But it's been wonderful talking to you, and I hope we get to do it again sometime.
Okay, well, sure. Let me know, and I'm always available, more or less. My health right now is not so good, so it's a bit of
I'm sorry to hear that.
a drag. Yeah, but
Yeah.
every time I get a cold, it just gets worse. But what can you expect? This is what happens when you've lived a wild and crazy life.
Well, we are headed to Texas soon, so I'm going to hit you up for some advice on what type of cowboy hat I should wear.
Oh, well, you got to
tell him he has to buy the biggest, most ridiculous hat that is probably about as wide as him. That's what I want.
And
he's like a cartoon anyways. Where can you get a giant hat?
Just buy it. No, you don't want a giant hat. But you can buy a 10-gallon hat, but they're expensive, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Buy a Stetson.
Stetson, okay.
Yeah, and do not buy, I'll tell you what not to buy. Oh, what's it called? I have one. Damn. I can't remember what it is. But it sounds like it's an armor or something. Oh, I know. Something all. Resistol.
Resistol, okay.
Yeah, don't do that. It's like a hard-shelled cowboy hat. You can't even pick it up with your fingers because on the crease, because there's no give. It's literally like a hard shell. Looks good, but it's anyways. A good cowboy hat's going to set you back $300 at least.
Yeah. Well, I've got a birthday coming up next week. Anybody listening who would like to get me a nice Stetson?
Yeah, knowing your people, you'll probably get one.
I must have about 7 or 8 or 9 cowboy hats. So, I keep buying more.
I have many hats myself, but I don't have any cowboy hats. Yeah.
Yeah, Neil's a hat collector.
Yeah. Oh, I've got 100 hats.
Very cool.
Yeah, I can't help it. I just have so many hats. But I'm a man of many hats. That's what I am.
That is our common bond here.
Okay, guys, it's been really a pleasure. I've enjoyed talking to you both. And it was nice. It was refreshing that you didn't just stay with the horror genre and that you made it more interesting into getting into other things.
Yeah, we enjoy that ourselves. So, yeah.
Okay, good. Well, I did too.
Thank you very much. I saw that you liked American Mary on your Facebook page by the Soska twins.
I wrote a little article about that not even a week ago. I just finally finished that movie.
I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah.
And it really spoke about, it really, there's this whole kind of undercurrent to that thing, which is a reality. I mean, people are doing that. Everybody is trying to escape from their own identity and become something else. And her own particular, her struggle, and fighting herself ethically about what she was doing, and then realizing that, wow, this is really lucrative, and then really kind of getting into it. And it's kind of like a story about what happens to you on a deeper level in terms of the horror of one's life. Yeah. And all the challenges that you have to face, and the decisions that you have to make, which have all kinds of consequences. And it was I really saw it was much more than a horror movie to me. And at the same time, I thought the horror was great, and she was wonderful. It was rough. It's a rough cut movie. I could see that. And it was his first. Wasn't that his first film? The director.
No, it's actually female directors. Jen
and Sylvia Soska, I believe.
Yeah, they did one movie before that. It was
they did Dead Hooker in a Trunk, which I have not seen. Yeah,
I haven't heard of that one.
But people seem to like that one too. I haven't seen it yet.
I must look that one up. Dead Hooker in a Trunk.
It has a great title.
But since then, they did a movie Neil and I were not particularly fond of. It was a movie with a wrestler in it.
Yes,
that was put out by them.
See No Evil 2, which I really think they kind of did that one to make some money.
Yeah, it sucks.
Well, that's it.
So that is a really weird thing because I loved American Mary, and it was interesting seeing that after there's all this hype about those girls. That they are huge in horror right now. Everyone loves them. Everybody just fondles them practically with praise. It's just over the top.
Yeah.
And like when we were talking about in advance of this one film that came out, if you went to the See No Evil 2 site on Facebook, there was nothing about the movie. It was all about the two directors.
Oh, yeah.
That was it. That was the selling point of the movie, was them.
Right. Well, it's like the guys that did The Matrix, right? I mean, they're kind of amazing the way they work together and were able to accomplish what they did. And that brings me to one last thing I did want to bring up that we didn't talk about, and that is that I get asked this all the time. What happened? Why is there no sequel to My Bloody Valentine? And I know that Mahalka had the idea of trying to get a sequel going, and I don't think Paramount was willing to bite. And by the way, My Bloody Valentine is no longer owned by Paramount. It's owned by, I think it's Hammer Films now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Hammer Films just came back recently.
Yeah. So, I'd like to see a sequel, and I have some really good ideas for one. Mm-hmm. I just wish somebody out there would want to do it. Mm-hmm. Maybe somebody who's listening here, because I think that would be worthwhile. There could be a lot of things done with aside from just the horror aspect, because it's kind of a good story to play with. Definitely. Altogether.
Yeah. And it already has the legend that was involved in it, so you could come back at later time.
But my idea though is not the sequel so much as a prequel.
A prequel, yeah, of Harry himself.
We go back and then we do the sequel after that. Mm-hmm. That would be interesting. Mm-hmm. But no takers so far. If anybody's listening wants to do it, please contact me.
Excellent.
You can find me on Facebook.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys, I gotta go. Otherwise I'll just gab on forever. Anyway, I really appreciate this. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was great. It was really very great.
I really enjoyed it.
I'll tell my fans all about it. They can actually play it anytime, right?
Yeah, after the live show, then it'll be up there for a podcast, and they can listen to it anytime.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I'll make sure that they understand that.
Excellent.
Okay.
Great. Thanks.
See ya.
Bye.
All right. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye.
How you doing there? This is Lachlan Monroe, and I have my hat on, but you're listening to WithoutYourHead.com.